Imagine this for a second. You're walking out of the most incredible, most magnificent building you have ever seen in your life. That's exactly where Jesus and his disciples are. They're leaving the Jerusalem temple. I mean, this place was the absolute heart of Jewish life, a true architectural wonder, and the pride of the entire nation. But it's right here, in this moment of pure awe, that Jesus says something that's going to change everything.
You can just hear the excitement in the disciples' voice, right? And for good reason. I mean, some historical accounts say these stones were over 40 feet long. Some weighed up to 600 tons. To them, this wasn't just some building. It was a symbol of permanence, of God's unbreakable promise to Israel, made real in solid stone. And then, boom, Jesus just drops this bombshell. Right in front of this seemingly indestructible masterpiece, he predicts its total, complete annihilation. The whiplash from awe to shock must have been incredible. It's this jarring, counterintuitive statement that really sets the stage for everything he's about to say.
So a little later, they get away from the crowds. They're up on the Mount of Olives with this perfect view of the temple, and his closest disciples pull him aside. They have to know more. Their question is so direct, so urgent. When is this going to happen? And what signs should we be looking for? This very private question is what kicks off one of Jesus' longest and most detailed prophecies.
And this whole teaching, this whole conversation, is what we now call the Olivet Discourse. It's pretty straightforward. It's named for where it happened, the Mount of Olives. And it's his answer to their burning questions about the future. He's about to unpack a series of events that will literally span centuries.
Now, Jesus begins his answer in a really fascinating way. Before he gives them the final sign, he first lists a whole bunch of signs that are not the end. He's kind of managing their expectations, basically telling them, hey, hold on, don't jump to conclusions. You're going to see a lot of chaotic stuff, but these are just the beginning of sorrows.
And he lists off this series of really unsettling events that, let's be honest, have pretty much marked all of human history ever since. False messiahs, constant wars and conflicts, natural disasters, famines. He's painting a picture of a world in turmoil, a world that's kind of groaning under its own weight.
To explain all this, Jesus uses this really powerful metaphor, birth pains. Think about it. Birth pains, they let you know a birth is definitely coming, and they get more frequent, more intense as it gets closer. But the pains themselves aren't the birth. In the same way, all these global crises are signs that history is moving toward a climax, but they aren't the final event itself.
Okay, this brings us to a really crucial idea for understanding everything else he says. A lot of scholars believe that Jesus' words are working on two horizons at the same time. You can think of it as a dual fulfillment. He's speaking about two different events, one that's local and very soon, and another that's global and much further away.
So that first horizon, it points directly to the destruction of Jerusalem by the Roman army, which, by the way, happened exactly like Jesus said it would in AD 70. But his language also points beyond that, to a second horizon, a final cosmic event at the very end of the age. The fall of Jerusalem actually serves as a kind of pattern, a foreshadowing of what's to come on a worldwide scale.
Then Jesus uses this really cryptic phrase, the abomination of desolation, which he pulls from the book of Daniel. Historically, this always referred to some huge act of desecration in the temple, like when a Greek king sacrificed a pig on the altar. So for Jesus' listeners, it was like a code word for the ultimate sacrilege. It was a clear signal that the final crisis was here and it was time to get out.
And this had a direct life or death application. When the Roman legions surrounded Jerusalem in AD 70 and set up their pagan standards in the temple area, the Christians who remembered what Jesus said knew this was the sign. They fled the city before its final catastrophic destruction, and their lives were saved because of it. So, after laying out all of these prophetic details, the signs, the troubles, the two horizons, Jesus pivots to his central, practical point. This is the real takeaway of the entire speech. It's not about making charts or predicting dates. It's all about a command.
Keep awake. He says this, or something like it, over and over again. He completely shifts the focus from trying to figure out the future to how you are supposed to live in the present. The most important point is not what you know about the timeline, but how you are living right now.
And just to hammer this home, he makes it crystal clear. Nobody knows the day or the hour. Not the angels, not even the Son himself during his time on earth, only the Father. So the whole point of this prophecy isn't to satisfy our curiosity, it's to cultivate our readiness.
So what does it actually mean to stay awake?
Well, the discourse gives us a pretty clear game plan. First, don't be fooled by false claims. Second, don't be alarmed by all the chaos in the world. Expect it, but don't panic. Third, endure through the hard times with faith. And finally, you wrap all that together into a life of being watchful and ready.
All right, so how does this ancient prophecy apply to us, thousands of years later? The message actually translates perfectly into our modern world. It calls us to live in this state of being watchful, but not constantly worried.
You see, the ultimate point of the Olivet Discourse isn't to turn us into anxious people who are constantly scanning the headlines, trying to connect every news story to some prophetic timeline. It's a call to character. It's about being found faithful, doing the work we've been given to do, so that no matter when the end comes, we're ready.
Jesus wraps up his teaching with this monumental claim. Everything we see is permanent, the sky above us, the ground beneath our feet, all of it will one day be gone. But his words, the very warnings and promises we've just been talking about, they will endure forever. They're the one true constant in a world that is always changing.
And that really leaves us with a question to sit with. In our own lives, with all of our unique challenges and our own responsibilities, what does it truly look like to live in that state of faithful readiness? How do we actually practice being watchful without letting ourselves give in to worry?